I think most of us are gonna agree when I say that most of us can't wait for the year 2020 to be over. And if you're watching this in 2021 or any other year in the future, I'm sure you know, or at least you heard about all the crazy things that made 2020 one of the most challenging years for every human being on this planet. However, nothing bad lasts forever, and there's always some hope in the middle of all the chaos. In today's video, we'll be looking at some of the best things that happened in 2020. Stay with me until the end of this video and find out why 2020 wasn't that bad of a year after all. With all that said and done, let's begin, shall we? Our first entry is working from home. One of the good things that the lockdown brought to us was working from home. I know working can be boring and exhausting sometimes, but doing it from home allows us to have some control over our time and avoid stressful things like driving back and forth and getting stuck in traffic. It seems like we'll be able to go out freely in the near future, but it seems like working from home will be a pleasant alternative for many people, even if they're now allowed to go back to their offices. Our next entry is learning new skills. Another good thing that the lockdown brought to us was the insane amount of free time to try new things. And thanks to that, many people were able to learn new skills. Painting, calligraphy, photography, people got creative. Some other people even used their free time to improve their sewing and made some pretty awesome masks for themselves and their friends. Our next entry is drive-in movie theaters. Due to social distancing and other restrictions, going to the cinema was not an option for most of 2020. For that reason, some businesses got creative and brought back the drive-in movie theaters, which were a thing in the 50s and 60s, but were no longer popular by the time of the 70s and 80s. In a year as crazy as 2020, it seemed like the best and safest way to watch movies. And I'm sure many people in the audience would like drive-ins to say as an alternative to the regular movie theaters. Our next entry is creative events. Similar to movies, most of the big live events that were scheduled for 2020 had to be postponed to next year, but many of them decided to host the events online so people could enjoy from the comfort of their home. Music festivals, film festivals, conferences, and all sorts of events had to find ways to get closer to their audience despite the long distance between them. Overall, we had a lot of great events during the year, including an opera concert in Barcelona that used more than 2,000 plans to fill empty seats, and then donated the plans to healthcare workers. That's a nice and creative gesture of affection if I ever did see one. Our next entry is board games and puzzles. Who needs board games and puzzles when you have video games and the internet? You know, unless the video game consoles you so desire are being taken away from you because of bots. But either way, I'm sure your family would be concerned if you spent pretty much all of the lockdown in front of a screen. And I don't blame them. It's cool that you get to watch my videos and that you play video games, but your eyes need a break. Back in the day when technology wasn't that advanced, people used to play board games. Or heck, even go outside before that was taboo. However, now that more people had time at home, board games and puzzles became a great way to have fun without being in front of the screen the whole time. So remember, it's always nice to take a break from screens, and board games and puzzles are a great way to do it. Our next entry is the weirdest TV experiences. Speaking of screens, TV and streaming services had a major impact on the way we spent our time. A lot of people got the chance to binge watch some of their favorite shows, including new ones like Ratched, Emily in Paris, The Queen's Gambit, and of course, Tiger King. Thanks to these shows, we were able to have a laugh during some of the most stressful times of our lives. But you gotta admit it, some of these shows were just unexpected. A year ago, I wouldn't have thought about a show about big cats breeding was gonna be so big in 2020. Our next entry is the gift of music. Concerts and big music shows were canceled this year, but the world of music never died. During the lockdown, a lot of artists got creative and gave us some very good hits. Charlie XCX, Lady Gaga, The Weeknd, Ariana Grande, the list is long, but I'm sure that at least one of your favorite artists gave you some good music this year. Heck, even Justin Bieber released a new album before the pandemic. Woo. Oh, and Taylor Swift gave her fans not one, but two surprising new releases, so that's something. So when it comes to music, 2020 was a pretty good year. Our next entry is the Korean Wave. We gotta admit that a lot of the music that we listen and the movies that we watch from are from Western countries. That actually is a fact. A lot of people consume entertainment from other parts of the world. But this year, Korean products made a huge mark in the entertainment industry. We saw Parasite winning a lot of Oscars, including the one for Best Picture of the Year, and that's the first time that a foreign film wins such a glamorous and prestigious title. Likewise, in the world of music, K-pop is now a big thing worldwide. Many people around the world listen to popular bands such as BTS and Blackpink. And it seems like the list of Korean movies and music acts is just going to keep growing. Soon enough, everyone's going to be more connected thanks to music and movies from around the world. Our next entry is electric cars. Things got a lot better for the environment in 2020. This year, at least 10% of the cars that were sold were electric, which is a huge increase in comparison to previous years. Electric vehicles are great for the environment as they emit less greenhouse gases and pollutants. Due to their benefits, the European Union and states like California are hoping to have everyone driving electric cars in the next couple of years. Oh, and by the way, that means more charging ports at the gas stations. Our next entry is greener land. We're ending with a greener planet, and that doesn't necessarily have to do with the lockdowns and restrictions. There's been a lot of work going towards planting more trees and making the Earth a better place to live. Last year, NASA reported the planet was already greener than it was 20 years ago, and many countries around the world have taken steps to reforest their homes. India alone was responsible for the planting of 250 million trees in one weekend. Also in the UK, landowners are getting paid to let their fields grow wild. People say that many places now look more like woodlands compared to other times when it wasn't that green. Yet planting the right trees can help against global warming and save the habitats of many species. Our next entry is cleaner ocean. Just like the forest, the ocean also got a lot better this year. And I know many of you probably haven't seen it since a lot of people didn't make it to the beach this year. But you might be happy to know that 14 nations that together own 40% of the coastlines around the world got together to eliminate plastic from the oceans. This was done in order to help fish populations and reefs. On top of all that, this is already showing results. The UN says the population of large fish in the Mediterranean and Black Sea is now double the size it was 2 years ago. Our next entry is saving animals. A lot of animals were able to roam freely in the wild this year. This is mainly because there were not many humans coming close to their habitat. But that's not all. We were also able to see a lot of new laws coming together in favor of many animals around the world. China now has a wildlife protection law that includes sea animals. This means that their fishing is now more restricted in order to ensure the safety of animals and people. Likewise, they're very serious about protecting the pangolin, which is an animal that's been trafficked a lot around the world and it's been in danger of extinction for a good long while. Our next entry is people caring about injustice. Throughout history, there's been a lot of injustice happening in society. It doesn't matter where you're from. I'm sure there's at least one social issue that's affecting you or someone near you. But this year things got a bit louder, and I guess being at home all the time made us more aware of our surroundings and led people to take action. We saw people raise their voice against injustice, and some of them even went out to protest and speak out about the things that made them upset. Yes, this brought a lot of controversy, but we gotta admit that all of these things started important conversations that could bring a big change in the places where we live. One thing is for sure, we all dream of a better world in which we're all united, and I'm sure that future is closer than ever. Who knows though. Let's check them out with historic steps towards space exploration. While we spent most of our time indoors, humanity's quest for exploring space didn't stop. In fact, this year brought a lot of great things in that field. Recently, a Japanese team was able to retrieve a chunk of rock from an asteroid. That's something to celebrate because it hadn't been accomplished before. We're making history this year, and that isn't all. China and the US both sent their own robot missions to the Red Planet, and you might remember, SpaceX sent 2 missions to the International Space Station. Thanks to that, we now have a very fast satellite internet network. And on top of all that, we have our Space Force's military's name. Guardians. That should have been Spartans. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Our final entry is the most hopeful one. COVID vaccines. 2020 started strongly with a threat to everyone's health. As COVID-19 started to spread all around the world, people had to stay home and wear masks and wash their hands more often in order to avoid getting infected. No one knew much about the virus, but many people started getting sick in a way that doctors were not familiar with. And sadly, some people lost their lives to the virus. Now that the year is coming to an end, we can celebrate the new COVID vaccine, which is already being distributed in some countries such as the UK, United Arab Emirates, the United States of America, and Mexico. This brings a lot of hope as the vaccine is one of the things that can help us go back to our regular lives once it's available in more countries around the globe. The world is changing, and it seems like things are going in a great direction. Whatever happens, we just have to keep looking for a better future, and make the best of the day that was given to us today. What are some things you look forward to in the future? Keep a positive attitude and let us know in the comments section down below. With all that said and done, that's our video for today, folks, and I will see you all in 2021. Later, everybody.